Hello, it is March 26th, 2026, and today is the 37th day of Lent. Got up this morning around 7. Actually, my alarm went off at 7, so I know I did. I got ready, did my hour meditation, and then went and grabbed coffee and then drove to the church. And I normally on Thursday morning have a meeting with Rachel from 9 to 10 and production meeting from 10 to 11:30. And Rachel's having car trouble today, so we did not have either one of those meetings. And also Matt had to drive to Inola for his son's baseball game. So I ended up just working in the sanctuary all day on the computer, getting this Sunday ready and Easter, working on Easter stuff. I have a kind of a special video element that I tested it out today, and the way that I could think to do it, it was really laggy. And so I contacted the team that installed the screens and helped me with all the tech stuff, and they remoted into the computer and got it set up correctly for me. So that, because what I was doing was I have a video file that I want to show across all three screens, and I was putting the video in 3 times, the full resolution, full width video in 3 times, and then having the middle screen show the middle portion of it and the side screen show their portion of it, but it was technically playing the video 3 times. And it was just having a really hard time with that. Come to find out, it can do what I was doing, but I needed to convert the video file to the Resolume specific video file type. And it would work that way. But even better is he set up a, what's it called? I forget. But anyway, set it up a way where I can put the video file in once, and it automatically puts it on which screen, the portions of the video, it automatically puts it on the screen it needs to go on. So that's nice. But also, while I was doing that, on Monday, I had to replace 3 of the panels. I guess I had to replace 2. What are they called? They're microchip cards in the back of the panel, and it's essentially the brain of that particular panel. 3 of them went out. Just taking one of them out and putting it back in fixed it, so that's good. And then I had to replace 2 of them, but they have baked in settings and software. I think I don't know if it is software or if it's just configuration files. Well, it had a base level configuration file already installed on it, so that the color pretty much matched. And if you had something, if you had a good, like most of the scenes that I put on the screen, you couldn't tell that they were any different. But the countdown video that I'm using this week has a pretty gray sky, and in there you could see that one of the panels that I replaced the chip in was a different luminosity. And then I put something solid on the screen, and I saw the 4 panels were actually set incorrectly. And so 2 of them were behind the drums, and that's why I never noticed. But what's crazy about just technology is, one, just the fact that I even have 3 different giant screens, and that's even a thing. 2, that I needed help today, and I know like remoting into computers is not a new thing. Like it's been around for a long time. But one Cameron remoted into one computer, got it that set up for me, and then Matthew remoted in to a computer to dial in the correct settings for an individual panel of a 180 panel, I don't remember exactly how many, screen. And he was on a plane on his phone remoting into that computer and doing it. And it would have worked, but the first step of troubleshooting, if that would have worked, he would have done it all on his phone while on a plane. And that's just insane. But he ended up having to use his laptop because the settings that he needed to do were like more, they were deeper into everything, and doing all of that on his phone would have essentially been impossible. So anyways, I was just like, it's just wild that we live in a day and age where I'm like, hey, two of the panels on my LED wall are not configured correctly because I had to replace the chip in it. And he's like, oh, download the software on that computer. And then he's controlling that computer while he's flying 30,000 feet in the air from his phone. That's the world I live in. Pretty crazy. Whenever I record these, because normally it's been around the 4 o'clock hour and the sun is moving behind the courthouse basically as I'm filming. So I've noticed in the last week or so that it'll start out bright and then by the end it's dark, because the sun isn't really, it's behind the building, not really coming through my window anymore. So anyways, that's partly what I was doing today. The other part that I was doing today is which I just remembered something I didn't do today that I need to do. The other part was, so the video that I'm trying to make for Easter is an ultra wide video that spans across all 3 screens of us walking through the Garden of Gethsemane. So I used Midjourney to create a aspect ratio of 6 wide by 1 high image. And then Midjourney upscaled that, and then used Midjourney to animate that image, and it moves through, and then extended that video. Then I took that 9-second video, put it into After Effects, and made it 6 minutes with frame blending, and upscaled it even more. And that worked okay. Not quite what I want it to be. And then today I haven't completed it yet, but I did a month subscription to Topaz Labs so that I could upscale it to 8K in slow-mo, and then get it in the proper resolution. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that looks a lot better, because the way I did it the first time would have worked, but I definitely would not have been proud of it. So happy for the challenge, because this was something that Pastor Matt, basically he brought the idea to the table, and so I'm happy for the challenge to learn, to have to figure this out, because it's, I'm learning a new skill to make it work and figure it out. And then once I have that figured out, then I have to do it again for the daytime scene, because I just got it done for the nighttime scene. So we'll see. yesterday in the video journal, I was talking about my the spiral of becoming, and one of the things that I went down a rabbit hole in there was just the current state of the world and war and politics, and just one thing I reflected on after, and even this morning in my meditation, is it's interesting to me that, like, even in my own personal journaling, in my, in this personal video journal and in my writing, I have a hard time taking a hard political stance. I don't know. That doesn't sound entirely. I mean, because I don't have a hard time taking a hard political stance against far right fascism and war in general, and against ICE and police brutality and human rights, and taking away the rights of marginalized groups, taking away the rights from any group, but taking away the rights from women, minorities, and immigrants. And easily hard stance against that. But for some reason in my language, I have a hard time what is it that I'm having a hard time with? Well, I guess one thing would be because I don't know how to fully define where I am politically, because I'm definitely not on the right. I've never been a right-leaning person. In the 2012 election, is that right? Because Obama's elections were 2008 and 2012. I think that's right. And in the 2012 election, Bernie Sanders was running, and I honestly didn't know. I assumed I was Republican because, I grew up in Oklahoma and I live in Oklahoma, and everybody around me is Republican. And so I just kind of assumed that I was. And I took a "who should you vote for" quiz test. It was like, I feel like it was a good one because it was put on. It wasn't like a BuzzFeed. It was like an official. It was a well-respected organization that had the quiz, and it had a lot of questions. It wasn't just like a simple 10 question thing. But anyways, whenever the answers came out, I was like 99% aligned with Bernie Sanders, and like so little aligned with anybody on the right. And I was at the church and in what we call the green room where the band hangs out. And I told that to the group of people that was in there. And I was like, I just kind of assumed I was Republican. And they made a face at me. And one of the guys spoke up and was like, well, you did? And he's like, you're so obviously a Democrat. And I was like, obviously? And he's like, yes, everything you talk about and the way your opinions and the it is obvious that you are not a Republican. And I was like, huh, interesting. Because like I said yesterday in my journal, just the way that I see the world, and I just the way that I naturally and organically see the world through what I consider the lens of Christ, I just don't find myself aligning. I mean, I find liberal ideas more aligned with what I call love. And so I have no problem saying that I'm a liberal. No problem at all. And no problem saying that I don't agree with most conservative ideals. And I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm a Democrat because I'm not. I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm a Republican because I'm not. I think I'm registered independent because that's what I mean, of the three things that you can be registered as, I feel I'm an independent. Independent thinker because I'm not in the group think of left or right, and I see that there's truth within a larger circle that encompasses both. But I think I'm a centrist, and I do recognize that the far right regime of the last 10 years has pushed center into just being on the right, where like if you are truly in the center of politics, you are on the right because the far right is so far. I consider myself, I guess, more of a true centrist. It's probably not the right word to use, but maybe like an adjusted for inflation centrist. But definitely I'm socially liberal. Like it makes more sense to me that access to healthcare, and it makes more sense to me that if women have access to safe abortions and have access to high quality healthcare, that in the larger metric, that there are less abortions and less suffering and less death than if it's fully restricted and access to good healthcare goes with it. And it seemed, I understand the logic, the faulty logic of banning something means that it won't happen anymore or it happens less. But anyway, I don't need to get into every detail of that. It's just, I just understand. I naturally can see that the more liberal, the liberal idea of giving people a freedom of choice and access to healthcare and access to health resources and social policies and organizations that care holistically for a human allows more women to make the choice to not have an abortion because there's a social system set up for her. It provides safer, it's safer for the mother options, and so less suffering and less death happens because less mothers die who choose an abortion. And I don't know why I'm going so deep in this rabbit hole. I'm just saying that I naturally see that more of a truth than a pro-life restrictive access outlaw ban situation. And like same with drugs. Like I think that that giving people, I just see that freedom of choice being a net positive over control. That control and restriction and banning, outlawing, these things have a place, and that's why I'm not playing a side. I understand there is a place for rules, laws, banning, that there are some things that are so like meth, heroin, fentanyl. These things should be very controlled substances that shouldn't be should not be legal, but also shouldn't be criminalized. That the criminalization of an addiction leads to more harm than the decriminalization and restriction and even banning of these substances. Yeah, I'm just like actively processing language. I'm not trying, definitely not giving this in like an eloquent 4-point argument of my opinion, because I'm saying all of this to say, even in my own personal, words matter, and I'm careful to make sure that my words match my truth. And it's easy to use diminutive language that doesn't communicate the truth. And so I'm just careful about making sure that I'm speaking what I actually believe versus speaking to speak or speaking to sound good. But as I'm actively just thinking out loud here, I'm just curious of, I'm perfectly okay with having an opinion, taking a stand, and taking a stand towards love. I naturally see the world in a way that is without study, and I just say my opinion, it's a left-leaning opinion. And with study, the evidence is there to make me continue with a version of that opinion, that harm reduction is a net positive over restrictive access. And just seeing that most restricted access and criminalization is like the system itself is bigoted and racist and misogynistic. It's the system, and that political ideology is a white heteronormative ideology that is only in it to benefit itself and its Christian ideals that aren't actually Christian. It's a guise. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so many people don't realize that they're a wolf. They're stuck so deep into the mask of their own making. And I have sympathy for that the mask was put on them, and they are a result of the system that they were born and bred into. And so it is still a mask of the grand scheme their own making. And I have sympathy that so many of those people, they only see the sheep mask that they have on and can't recognize or see that there's a whole wolf suit on top of that they're looking out of. And, or I guess it's the opposite. They are a wolf in sheep's clothing, and all they can see is the sheep in the mirror, and they have no cognitive ability to recognize that below that surface level of sheep is the wolf. It's just another way of saying that in all aspects of people, there are so many people who aren't aware of their own awareness and aren't cognizant. They aren't cognitively aware that there is a persona, a mask of personality that they have built over their lifetime, and they live behind that mask thinking that the mask itself is who they are. And so many people think that they're the sheep, and yet their heart is a wolf, but they have no way of really recognizing and understanding that. And so I do have sympathy for them in a way, but and again, I want to add, I mean, this is a whole part of the conversation. There's on both sides of the dualistic political spectrum, there are people who don't recognize something deeper. But just speaking on people who think they're Christian and their actions are not Christ-like, but yet they use their self-righteousness blinds them into believing that wielding their spiritual sword is building God's kingdom, when in fact God has asked us to lay down our arms. And it's such a complicated thing. But anyways, that's all I have time for today.